Welcome to the Empty Nest Kitchen, where we're finding fun in the kitchen now that the kids have flown the coop. I'm Christine Van Bloom, a cooking teacher with over 25 years of experience, here to show you tips, tricks, and joy in your kitchen, all while trying something new. Let's get cooking. Well, hey there. I am here today with someone who I just think is brilliant. And we have known each other for what feels like 100 million years, even though we're both fabulous. Say hello to Amy Benton with me. Hi, Amy.
Hello, everybody.
So we were doing our pregame and we were talking, and Amy's done a couple of podcasts, so she knows what's what. She's probably better at this than I am. But I want to invite Amy on because Amy is the founder of Paris is Calling, as well as having a full-time gig. And I think side hustle simplifies it, but once the nest has emptied, I feel like you have this time to create and be, I don't even know the right words, but to really dive in and figure out the fun stuff that you want to do. And you did that, and you did Paris is Calling. So tell me a little about what that is.
So that's a really good question. I actually did a little vision quest about four or 5 years ago. I did a class with Julie Gaber, who many people may know in our area. She did something called Third Bloom, and she kind of leads you through some exercises where you're thinking about what you want those next chapters to be, what you want that third bloom to look like. And the thing that came up for me a lot was travel, food, learning, sharing experiences, wine.
These are all my favorite things.
Right.
These are all my favorite things.
Right. So, and I have a real affinity for Paris. I really love the city of Paris. I've been there a number of times. Paris is Calling really came about that wanderlust.
Yeah.
You could call it travel is calling, but that's not as fun as Paris is Calling.
Yeah.
And so for me, it really is about creating a place to put that energy. And I didn't know what it would look like other than I knew it needed to revolve around those topics. And so that's kind of grown into a number of different things.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm so embarrassed to admit this. Do you know I've never been to Paris?
Oh, well, it's really funny you should say so, because next year I think I'm leading my first group.
Oh, really?
So you might want to come with. You might want to come. Oh. Yeah. So I've had to really think about what that would look like, and I think it's going to be a very small group, maybe 6 to 8 people. So
yeah,
because as I'm creating this, I'm realizing I want these to be really curated experiences for people. I want it to feel like it's really your trip that I've helped you put together, and I'm there to help in whatever way, but you get to explore Paris in a way that feels comfortable.
Oh, well, that would be eating my way across the city, no doubt. That is so cool. Okay, so tell me, you are a marketer, right? You and I both have a marketing background, and I just love marketing. I really do. I just love it so much. And it's so marketing centric to have the name and then figure out what you're doing from there. So tell me a little about what it is you do. I know you're going to do a trip, which is amazing, but kind of how are you finding your feet with it? What are you offering?
So I just did my first winter series of classes. I did
fun.
Some classes and things that I thought would be interesting for people to explore. We did a brushstroke lettering class. I did a meditative stitching class called Scrappy Balls. That's a great name.
It's like sweaty balls from
SNL. Yeah.
Tell me what a scrappy ball is.
So it's a meditative stitching. It is like like you take scraps of material and you basically create like an art form with it. And the woman who taught it had some that looked like Van Gogh's paintings. So it's really kind of taking scraps of material, and they could be buttons. They could be rickrack. Can anybody remember what rickrack is? I'm dating myself by that one.
That's okay. We're all in the same boat on this podcast.
Yeah. But I had brought back buttons from Paris flea market on my last trip. So I gave everybody a little button to put on their strappy ball. So they have a little bit of Paris is Calling on their piece that they made. Yeah. And then the last one was with my pop-up, my vintage flea market pop-up, all the farms Frederick or Elin Ross. Many people will know her. We did a tablescape. So come and play with all of our stuff. So you got to set the table. You got part of your ticket price was a vintage tablecloth. So you got a tablecloth and you got to set the table. We did like 2 demos. She did a brunch setup and then I did sort of a fun, bright color picnic setup. And then people got to go through our stuff. It was like a first pass on all of our pop-up stuff. And they got to play with it. We got to talk about setting the table. For me, setting the table is one of the most important things of a meal. Like I know food is really important and cooking is really important.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, what you put in and the love that you put into it. To me, the table is like, this is your greeting to somebody. Like you're important. And I'm setting this table so you feel a sense of place around the table. And so setting tables has always been my thing ever since I've been a little kid. It was always my job. And I love the putting together of things.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun. So that was my first series. And I think I'll do a winter series as well. I don't know what that looks like yet. So educational things like learning is really important to me. That's part of my DNA. And that's part of Paris is Calling, like learning, growing, questioning things, exploring stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the first foray into that. My pop-ups that I do with all the farms are really fun. So we source, we curate, again, tablescapes, vintage barware, things to make your house feel better, things for outside. This kind of all started in COVID. We can talk a little bit about that. And then I think I'm going to do this trip next year. I think this is going to be my first time I'm going to take a group on a trip. So
that is phenomenal. I love this. Okay, I want to go back to the whole tablescape thing because this is one of my shortcomings. I can make a kick tush meal, right? And I can have it be the greatest thing you'll ever have, but hopefully. But like, I just haven't, the plating, not my strong suit. And the whole tablescape thing, I see what people put together and I'm always just blown away by the creativity. So where are you guys sourcing things? Where are you finding things when you're doing this?
So I source when I travel mostly. So like I was just up for New Year's. I was up in the Finger Lakes. I was in Hammondsport, New York, and there were some vintage stores. So I sourced there. So, and pretty much anytime I travel now, it's just part of what we do. I do a little, there's like a little flea market day. I was in Paris. I was back in the Paris flea and I brought home the most gorgeous ice bucket. It's like a little crystal ice bucket with like a wooden painted lid. I've never seen an ice bucket like this in my life.
Oh.
So I like to find things when I travel. That's actually how this whole thing got started, these pop-ups. I should say that part of how I survived COVID was, again, my friend Elin at that time, not my pop-up business partner. We would go to Chartreuse on Sunday mornings.
Okay, and Chartreuse is a local, the kind of gathering of where lots of different vendors will have booths and things like that. And my dining room table is from there. And there you can get furniture or you can get, I don't want to say tchotchkes because it's so much more than that. But the bits and bobs.
Yeah, you can find things to make your home look more beautiful, inside and out, right?
Yeah.
And so they have a big barn. They have lots of open spaces. So we would go early on a Sunday morning. They would open at 10. We'd get there like at 9:45. They were gracious enough to let us like wander about for a little while. So we felt safe and we'd go into the barn before anybody else would be there. And we'd be out before like the masses of people would be there. And not that there were masses of people at that time, but there would be people that would to wander in. So it was sort of how we kind of made our way through. It was like something to look forward to. Because if you remember, there was not a lot to look forward to. You were like home all week.
I do remember. Yeah.
Right? And so you were not leaving your house. You're not seeing people. You're not, right. So we did that for a period of time. And at some point we decided that we would go to Massachusetts. It's called Brimfield. It's like,
I've heard of Brimfield. Oh, I want to go there someday.
So somewhere along the line, the two of us decided we'd have this like, Thelma and Louise thing, and we take off on a road trip. And we get to Brimfield and we're on the field and it's massive. It's huge. And we're like looking at stuff and we go, I think we could do a pop-up. Well, I think we could do a pop-up. What would we put in our pop-up? Well, I think we'd put these things in our pop-up. Well, let's buy these things for our pop-up. I guess we're doing a pop-up.
Yeah.
So it sort of just came about like in the middle of New York in July. Maybe we had heat stroke. I don't know. But we decide to do a pop-up and we start buying stuff. We bought beautiful wool blankets that we found. I mean, we just had this. I mean, we just both have like an eye. And what's interesting is we now shop. We always go once a year and shop collectively and take a trip. Like we're going to New York this year. Sorry, Brimfield's in Massachusetts. We're going to New York this year. But we both have a good eye and agree on stuff. And the biggest point is, okay, if this stuff doesn't sell, we have to agree we'll have it in our house. So we have to agree that we're going to keep it and we like it enough that we'll keep it. So that's how it all started. The next year we went back to Brimfield. We took a friend with us, and I think she was there to monitor our behavior. And then last year we went to Balkville, New York, which we'll go back to again. And we took a whole group. We took a whole gaggle of women with us, like 6 women. But we work real hard for 2 days and we source and we buy and we get ready for our fall show. So in the meantime, we both are sourcing independently. I typically source when I travel. We do auctions from time to time. We haven't ventured into the estate sale thing yet. I think that really is where we need to head next, is into estate sale. But we now have people reach out to both of us like, hey, I'd like to get rid of this. Do you want it? So it comes from a variety of places.
That's so cool. I have to say, I haven't been to an auction in years, but I find them so intimidating. I mean, it's a rush. It's totally a rush, but there are other fees and things you don't really, if you are new at going to auctions, like premium fees, and there are all sorts of things, and I find it so intimidating. So having somebody that's curating it, for me, that's great. But I'll tell you, the estate sale thing, I think you might be right.
Yeah, we just haven't made that jump yet. We probably need to make that. We actually think that's one of our goals for this year, is to go to an estate sale. So we run this. So we navigate between it being a hobby and a business. So
okay,
it has to function like a business to some degree, but it really is a hobby for both of us because we both have full-time jobs.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's making you want to do this? What makes you want to have this thing on the side that you are devoting time and energy to it?
Well, I think for me, it really is. It's the love of being able to share things that I love with people. So I love learning. I love travel. And I love the idea of helping people build things that are beautiful. I had this whole crazy 52 blazer project last year that went kind of nuts. So
this is a very cool thing. Hold on. I want to definitely talk about this because I thought this was so, so clever. Tell everyone about the 52 blazer project.
So I challenged myself to buy 52 blazers for the price of one new woman's blazer. And I find that women's clothing to be somewhat offensively expensive sometimes.
Yeah.
I just was in a J. Crew recently and I looked at a blazer and it was like $475. I'm like, this is crazy.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. But so I challenged myself to buy 52 blazers for the price of one new women's blazer. And I set that price point between $375 and $400. And I literally thrifted 52 blazers for like $391. But the cool part was I would post them as I'd find them and my husband was my photographer. My husband was my photographer. He just would take these, silly pictures. And then I would post and then people would make comments about that's a great outfit. And I would have seriously, I'd have men go, is that one of your blazers? Like, I love how you put these things together. Like, how can you be so creative putting it together? So I think it's the putting together of things for me, right?
Yeah.
It's like taking something old with something new and making it look like something. It's my creativity.
It was. I mean, you've always looked great. I mean, you have terrific style.
Well, thank you.
You just do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But you totally do. Always have, always will. And I thought the blazers you picked, it was funny because as you were thrifting them, right? When you're thrifting, you get what you get,
Yeah.
right? You have to be
Mhm.
careful and all of that. And you would say, I thought I'd like this one, but now I don't love it quite as much. Or this one is amazing and I will be wearing this forever and ever. And I liked the honesty of it, but I did love the creative aspect of it. I thought that was just terrific.
Oh yeah, I had this one. It was a Banana Republic one. It was a kimono style. I hate that blazer. It just doesn't. It doesn't. I just hated it. It just didn't work on me. It's not that it was a Banana Republic. It's just the
Yeah.
style. And I think that was the other thing. Really taught me about my style,
Oh, okay.
like what works for me on my body shape, what doesn't. And I do. People say that to me, like, "Oh, you kind of know what works." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I tested. I really, I kind of do feel like I know." And it got easier to buy the blazers because of that. Like, I'm like, "Oh,
Okay.
that one will work. No, that color doesn't work. Oh no, I like that fabric. I hate that fabric." Tend to always find lean if there was a vintage feel to something.
Yeah.
I wear a lot of black and white, so I had to be cautious that I wasn't buying too much black and white. But I did branch out on certain occasions. But yeah, it was a fun project. But I think again, it's that putting that old and new together. And I think that's how the tablescape thing works for me, or a barscape works. I love to entertain. I love having people over and enjoy having people over. So, but I like it to feel like something. So,
Do
you
you
know,
still have that Banana Republic blazer or did you donate it?
I do. I have a nonprofit in our area that is thinking about doing an event with them. So I'm hopeful that it will
With
turn.
all of your blazers?
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that
Stop.
yeah. So I'm hopeful that it will turn into a fundraiser.
So you have to keep it.
Yeah, I have them. I have all 52.
Oh my gosh. Now, if it's a fundraiser, are there any you would hold back?
I wouldn't. I'd probably supplement. I'd probably find some new ones
Yeah.
yeah. And there are a couple that I don't want to let go of. There's one that I bought at a vintage store up in Rhode Island. Just swanky town in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
With all the ones with all the houses. What is that?
Newport.
Newport. Oh, yeah. I found one in
Newport.
Yeah, I found one. It's the most expensive one I bought. It's $30, but I love it. And I probably would not part with it. The only one that was like the most expensive one was
At
$30.
$30.
At $30.
You have good luck thrifting.
Well, you just have to work at it. And part of it for me was I get distracted easily. So I have to have purpose and direction.
Yeah.
So having having focus somewhere helps me. Because I could get lost in a thrift store, like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. That's beautiful. You know, I could just get lost.
I'm the same way. I need a clear focus
Mm-hmm.
or else I'm dead in the water.
Right. And I think that's what happens with this project with Basket. And when we wanted to talk about Basket and board. So when I shop, I have real focus. Like I'm looking for barware, I look for small dishes, or I look for glassware. I'm big into champagne and coupes right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
if anybody out there has coupes that they want to get rid of, let me know. But, so and that kind of ties in obviously with the Paris is Calling thing. So I tend to try to find pieces that are made in France, or I try to make that connection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Paintings right now. I bought a lot of paintings when I was in Paris this time. So little small pieces of artwork. So
So my husband's mother and my mother both passed recently, and we had to clean things out. And I took all of the oil paintings that they had. It's really funny. I have one that my grandfather did for my grandmother back before I was born of a dog they have. We call it Dog and Bucket because that's basically what it is. And then we have one of my mother-in-law with one of her sisters from way back in the day when they were kids. And there are a couple, one or two from my mom's house, another one from my mother-in-law. And I'm trying to figure out how to display them all because they all have a personal touch. They're worth approximately $0, but I'm super into it. So I love that the little oil paintings are a thing for you.
yeah, I know. I think they do have value. They hit you somewhere in your heart.
They do.
That's a lot. That's value.
Yeah.
That's value right there.
Yeah, I remember Dog and Bucket hanging in my grandmother's dining room for years and years, and now it's in my dining room.
I feel like you almost need like little like museum cards underneath of them. Dog and Bucket.
Dog and Bucket.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I think it was their dog Nipper, I'm not sure. But I love that you have a specific focus. And then you were talking about you do pop-ups with your friend Elin, and you call that Basket and Board.
Right. So when we
which is a great name.
Yeah. So when we come together, we become a whole other thing, which is Basket and Board. And people are like, who are you guys? And like, well, I'm this, Ellen's this, and we're this. And so we're Basket and Board. And we just actually had our first, we have a new email for Basket and Board. So that's been a little slower to develop than all of our individual things. Those have kind of come together a little faster, but we have a logo for Basket and Board now. And well, we do Chartreuse pop-ups. We're there. We'll be there in the spring and in the fall. We're getting ready to do, there's a distillers event at the old Visitation Academy in Frederick, Maryland, I think in May 18th. I'll be there. Ellen won't be able to be there, but that'll be a combined stuff. I'll represent us both. We're going to probably do our own makers market at Give Rise Studio this fall. We're thinking about bringing together a group of people curating our own Christmas market or holiday market.
Fantastic. And that's in downtown Frederick here in Maryland.
Yeah. And so we're kind of exploring new things and testing new things. We did it last year. We tested doing 14 holiday markets last year. That was insane. We were crazy. It was breathtaking. We were exhausted. And we know that's not our thing to do 14 holiday markets.
Yeah.
And we're still friends. We're still very good friends, which is really good. But that was really hard. We bit off more than I think we both did not realize how intense that was going to be. So we learned, we're learning about it, but now we're in our 4th year, which is kind of hard to believe. So next year will be our 5th year anniversary, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a really great way to spend time with your friend. It's, not going out to eat we have a purpose when we get together.
Yeah.
And we've had to have conversations where we don't talk about work stuff, but we talk about other stuff too. So we had to have those boundary conversations, okay, we're talking okay, you have to ask me how I'm doing now. You have to be my girlfriend now.
Yeah.
And you have to be my friend and because it can be a lot. There's a lot. We have a lot of inventory, a lot of stuff.
Where do you keep your inventory?
We both respectively in our homes, and I keep Basket and Board in my home.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's a lot of inventory.
It's a lot of inventory.
So thank goodness those kids have moved out.
Thank goodness.
We've
got room. We've had a no furniture rule for a really long time. We wouldn't buy furniture, but we break that every once in a while. And then when we break it, we remind ourselves that we had a no furniture rule. But we don't typically buy big pieces. We don't jump into big stuff. So
that's smart.
It has to fit in our respective vehicles. We're not towing
it. Oh, see, that's good. Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb right there. I still have half a cooking school in my garage and in my basement. And I had to close that down, almost 4 years ago. So I feel you on the space. Every time I move stuff out, the house feels a little lighter, though. Do you feel that after your events?
Oh, for sure. For sure. There was a point though during the holiday events that I felt like we were running out of inventory because we were selling a lot of glassware. So we had to both of us were like, okay, wait, we got to go buy more inventory. So we had to scurry about. But again, people never do pop-ups like that. 5-week period. That was, I don't even know.
Aggressive.
It was a little aggressive. Even for us.
What made you go so aggressive?
I just wanted to test it. I think we found an opportunity.
You're both go-getters.
Yeah, I think we just found an opportunity. We thought, let's try it and see what will happen. And it happened, for sure. It happened.
Was it profitable for you?
Oh, yeah. I think it was. But it was a lot of time. And at a hard time of year to be away from family, right? Because there's a lot of other stuff going on.
Sure.
So there were a lot of competing interests at that time. But I'm not sad that we tried. I'm never sad that we try anything. I just am always glad that we try it and we step back and then we'd like take a breath and we're like, what do you think? And we have really good conversations like, did it work? Did it not work? You know, Ellen and I have done a number of projects together. We did many, many years ago, we did a run in the Frederick market called Cupcakes. It was the cupcake run. So literally ran and got a cupcake at the end of it. And we
Very
did that.
smart.
Yeah, we did that for a number of years. We did a pop-up in a farmer's market once called Pickles and Biscuits. I think you actually came and tasted those biscuits, right?
I did. And let me just say that there was a darn tasty pimento cheese biscuit in there.
Yeah.
I've come up with my own. I do a pimento cheese drop biscuit now. And I do that because you guys did a pimento cheese biscuit at that tasting. And I was so swept away by it. It was so good that I developed my own drop biscuit to go with it.
Yeah. So I think we had a lot of fun working on projects together. You know, I think it's kind of one of the pieces of our friendship is that
I love that
we work on projects together. And this has been a lot of fun. I think we both use vintage in our own decorating in our homes. I mean, I don't think anybody can see, obviously it's a podcast right now, but if you were to, I know Chris, you can see it. So there's this basket on the shelf behind me. And
it's very cool.
This basket was so beaten up. Ellen's like, I can't believe you're buying this basket. Well, I happen to know somebody who's a basket weaver, so she repaired it for me. And it's like, it's one of my favorite pieces. And I keep all my journaling stuff in it. But yeah, so I think we just and that's the treasure hunt, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of that treasure hunting.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, focus for me right now is female friendships after 50, because I think they are so vital. And, you know, I find I go out to dinner with people or I'll go out and have a drink, and I don't do it very often because post-COVID, I am a real homebody now. Yeah, I'm like married to the house, baby. I can go all day and John will come home. I'll go, what's the weather like out there? Because I haven't gone anywhere. And the female relationships have become so important. And I think it's a place where a lot of us lack. And I went out to dinner with someone last night, my friend Kelly, and she had said something to me about, I'm really craving some connection with people. I'm like, I'm your girl. But I love that you're doing it outside of food, right? Outside of food or wine or anything like that. You're not eating, you're, not food focused, even though you're doing the tablescapes and whatnot. And for me, I'm always trying to look at things I can do that are not focused on food, because I just really need those connections, but I don't need to go out all the time.
Well, and I love that pieces that we find will make another connection to somebody, and now they're in somebody's home and somebody else is loving them.
Yeah.
I love that somebody else can find something that we have found that we think is pretty or useful or pretty and useful, and that they're now taking it and incorporating into their style, and they're going to bring that into their home, and they're entertaining, and their family's going to gather around the table, and there's going to be this bowl that they bought that they're going to fill with their favorite thing, and they're going to, think about that memory. And typically, again, a lot of my stuff has a story to it, so I get to include that little story, like, oh, hey, I found that here. I'm so glad you're taking that home with you. And
that's so cool. I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
you have a lasting impact.
Oh, well, I don't know if it's a lasting impact.
It is.
But I'm really glad that people find joy in the things we find. And, the first time we went to Brimfield, there was French fabric that I fell in love with. And Ellen indulged me, and we bought jointly, because we do buy jointly. Basket and board is a combined effort. So I bought this beautiful French ticking, and we made some beautiful pillows with it. And I love that somebody loved them and took them in their home.
Yeah.
And has that in their home, and they're enjoying those pillows and sees the beauty in that fabric.
That's an impact. I think every time I look at something that I got from Chartreuse, which has lots of, if you are not from the Frederick, Maryland area and you are listening to this, you should look this up, because they've been in Southern Living and all sorts of things. But I can look at pieces in my house and I think about that came from there and that had a story before that. And I love that. I think that's super cool.
Well, and Virginia, Virginia Creme, who owns Chartreuse, has got a why. She's been doing this for a really long time. She's been so encouraging to Ellen and I. So such a supporter. I mean, talk about somebody who's supporting another, woman business and lifting somebody up. She's always encouraging and loves our stuff. So funny. I gone to the Chelsea flea market last year and I brought back this awesome double-headed Italian espresso maker. It was gorgeous. It was like a mid-century piece. And she was like, and she came by once and she's like, I think I got it. And somebody snapped it up. She's like, oh my God, I missed it. But it's good whenever like another person's like, that was an awesome piece.
Yeah.
But again, when I travel, I typically try to make sure I scoop by a flea market or a vintage store of some sort.
And what kind of events do you have coming up this spring?
So we'll be at Chartreuse for their spring market days, which is the 18th and 19th, 17th, 18th, 19th of April. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Make sure I have those days right. Pretty sure that's right.
I think so, yeah.
It's the third weekend. And then we'll be at Visitation. We'll be at the Visitation Distillers Market, May 18th. And that's it. And then we'll hit the road in August and do our buying trip in August. And then September, we'll pop back up for Chartreuse.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll put your events in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, of course, for the 12 listeners that I have. But I'll put that in for you. And if somebody is looking for you online, where can they find you?
So I actually have a website. It's more, that has more of my writing stuff on it, but you can find me on Instagram, Paris is Calling, or you can find me on Facebook. So
love it. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Now, I can't ever end without talking about food just a little bit.
Okay.
And I know you are very well traveled. What is the most memorable thing you've ever had in your travels, food-wise?
Okay, so it's interesting you're asking this question right now. I just got back from a trip to Reykjavik, Dublin, and Paris. And I've had some of the best food I've ever had in my life in Reykjavik.
Reykjavik's crazy good.
I mean, the food, honestly, if you would have told me that, I would have just told you, shut up, no way.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, I had cocktails and food that were delicious in Reykjavik. I had this cocktail. It's called a Grand Manhattan. It was under a smoked glass. It was like cinnamon smell. It was so good. I had to go back the second night to make sure that it was as good as I thought it was the first night. And that was amazing. And just the freshness of the food and the fish. Reykjavik by far had some of the best food I've ever had.
Yeah. I did a food tour. We did a Reykjavik to London to Scotland thing a couple of years ago because our son was studying abroad in Scotland. And I was like, well, let's hit a couple of places because I've never been. Let's go. And we did a food tour through Reykjavik.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some really great stuff. I mean, if you go to Reykjavik, you have to get the hot dog from that famous hot dog stand. You're like, no.
I would say no. No.
Oh, I'm like, they took us and I am not actually a lamb fan, but we did that and we had a rye bread ice cream.
Yes, I think it was on the same boat tour that you were on because you had and you have pickled shark?
No, we didn't do the shark.
Okay.
We didn't do the shark because the shark is supposed to be super nasty.
It was like a salt gummy.
Oh, okay. That's a good way to describe it. We did a lobster stew, but it's with langoustines.
Mm.
We did a horse carpaccio.
Yeah, my husband would have fainted at that point because he's
a big
horse guy.
Well, and I have to tell you that I struggled because I'm an adventurous eater, but I just don't want to be a jerk. It's kind of my theme in life right now. Just maybe don't be a jerk. And they were so proud of it in the place we were. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that's basically raw horse. And then when we were driving around the next day and saw all the horses, I'm like, are those pasture horses or are those eating horses? I wasn't sure. But Yeah, that one was a little tricky, but you know what else we had that was wild? We had whale.
Oh,
And they went through a whole thing on why it was okay that we had it, and it tasted like steak.
interesting.
It tasted like flank steak. It was really rich. And again, food tour. I love food tours.
Me too. Me too.
I think when you go somewhere new, I think a food tour and also going to a grocery store. I absolutely love going to grocery stores. Heck, even in the United States, I like just going to a grocery store wherever I am to see what's different. Do you do that?
100%.
Okay.
I love, actually, when we were in Paris this past time, we had an Airbnb, so we were in the grocery store all the time, and I love finding all the little things that you can't, things that are new. Absolutely. And food tours are phenomenal. We did a food tour I had some girlfriends who went to Paris about 5 years ago, and we did a market tour. And we went to the market, but we also, oysters were involved. There's a wine bar involved. It was like one of the best food tours I've ever done.
What are you drinking now?
What am I drinking now? Probably bourbon. I'm like into the bourbons now. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Wine. I love wine, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm drinking Sancerre,
Oh,
which
is
is
lovely.
lovely. It's so yummy. And this is going to sound totally ridiculous, but when my mother-in-law passed last year and we went out after the funeral, we had a whole restaurant to ourselves and somebody had said, "Oh, do you have a Sancerre?" And I was like, "Well, that sounds amazing." So now I always think of my mother-in-law
Oh,
when I have the Sancerre. She was not there, but it makes me think of her, and I don't know why, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find Sancerre.
It is. It's a lovely white wine. And so
It is.
that would probably be one of my husband's choices too. He would have a Sancerre. But
Yeah, I think warmer weather starts coming. I like my wines to be very crisp and not oaked at all. I don't go for, I'll do a buttery Chard, but I don't really love an oaky Chard in the winter, but give me all the bright, minerally sort of things once the weather warms up.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good Sauvignon Blanc and a really, really crisp on a hot day. I agree with you. We're a nice rosé. So
what's your bourbon of choice right now?
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably whatever is in the house. It usually gets mixed with something, so I'm not usually drinking it straight up. Although I also really like a good Manhattan. Like, there are just sometimes I need a Manhattan. Like, I need a Manhattan.
Yeah, love to hear it.
Need a Manhattan.
I just call it all brown liquor.
Yeah,
it's all the same to me. I'm just not a brown liquor girl.
To have bullet in the house a lot, but I don't think that Maker's Mark is always a good choice. I mean,
it's reliable.
It's reliable.
Yeah, good and reliable. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amy, thank you so much for taking time out of your excruciatingly busy schedule. I know you're a busy gal.
Thank you for inviting me. What a pleasure to chat and catch up today. And thank you everybody for listening. And I look forward to seeing you, I hope.
Excellent. And I'm going to put Amy's contact info so you can follow her on Instagram. She always posts such cool stuff, so give her a follow along with locations and dates for where she will have her basket and board pop-ups this spring. And then when you follow her, you'll be able to keep on track for the fall, but not 14 Maker Mark. Yeah. So
thanks. And thanks, Chris. Good talking with you today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Amy. I so appreciate it. And I want to remind everyone that you can find any classes that I'm doing at emptynestkitchen.com. And I have a really fun artisan pizza class coming up on April 21st. I show you how to make a really tasty, yummy pizza that's the real deal out of your own home oven. You don't need a pizza oven. I don't have one, but it's a great time. And I really hope you'll join me. I mean, heck, invite a friend over and let's do it together. We're cooking connected and finding the joy in cooking with each other. And that's it for this week. feel free to drop a review or a rating and tell everybody you know, and maybe some that you don't, to give us a listen here. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you in the kitchen.